does Lando even want to win it like that? That was the question being asked today during the press conference. It's been insane what you see in terms of the comments that are being sent to him. I think a lot of the drivers here on the paddock would maybe rather sit back and just watch those three fight it out.
23 rounds are done and the season finale is here. It's the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix with a 3-horse race to go into this final round. Around Yas Marina Circuit, and at Yas Marina Circuit for F1 Paddock Update, Tim Kraaij from GP Blog is here to talk with me, Jim Kimberley, about this upcoming weekend. And there's only one place to start, Tim. What everybody's been talking about on the internet this week. McLaren, 2 drivers who could win the championship, but very much in favour of one of those drivers, with Lando Norris leading Oscar Piastri. So this could be a repeat of 2007, but are McLaren going to do team orders if it so transpires that Lando Norris is behind Piastri and Piastri would have to make way? What have the drivers said about this potential situation?
Yeah, it was, of course, the question everyone wanted to hear the answer to, because that's everything everyone's been thinking of after Qatar, because that is the most, like danger outcome, I think, for everyone, where Oscar Piastri is P3, Max is P1, and Lando Norris is on P4. In that situation, Max would become champion, but if Oscar Piastri gives P3 to Lando Norris, Lando will be champion. And of course, from a McLaren's point of view, that's still a championship for McLaren. But do you ask that of Oscar Piastri? Does Lando even want to win it like that? That was the question being asked today during the press conference with our top 3, the 3 that are still in this championship fight. Lando got the question first, and he said they haven't talked about it at McLaren. For a team that has been talking over every single detail this season, over every single strategy call, over every single incident in a race, it seems very strange that this very plausible outcome during a race, this thing everyone has seen as the big danger in terms of the scenario for McLaren, that they have not spoken about this yet. Maybe they do tomorrow or on Saturday, I don't know. But at this moment in time, maybe convenient, just in front of the press conference, they hadn't talked about it, or at least they told so. Lando Norris, it was interesting. They set the camera on like Lando, but also took Oscar Piastri in view. And I think for the people who haven't seen that video, go over to Formula1.com or their YouTube channel, watch that press conference, because I think that the look on Piastri's face says it all. It's like the face we've seen all season when things go like this. And I think it's a very edgy situation. Lando Norris says he doesn't want to ask this of the team. He doesn't want to ask Oscar in that situation. He just wants to do a good job. And of course, like if Lando just finishes P3 or higher, he's champion. So he has it all in his own hands, and maybe doesn't want to think too much about this situation happening. But yeah, it is something at least the team should think about. And yeah, Oscar was asked about it as well, but he countered it with like he has to ask it first. Like that's the situation. And I think that is interesting. But we also had a Dutch session with Max Verstappen later on the day, and he got asked about that situation as well. And it was like, yeah, let's see on Sunday first if Lando is not gonna ask about that favor of Oscar, because if you're in that situation, of course you're gonna ask. Probably you're gonna at least try and do everything you can to get that P3 and get that championship, because Max said as well, like in 20 years time, no one, or maybe people are gonna remember, but you have that trophy back at home. You have the world title on your name, and that's maybe the thing that most count. Although if you look at how McLaren behaves with fair racing and stuff like that, is that really the way they want to clinch a world title? That's the question. But that's a question we only get an answer to on Sunday, and maybe we'll never get an answer to if Lando is not in that position.
We're going to find out soon, thankfully. I'm sure the McLaren drivers and Max even will be happy to have that question in the background and gone by Sunday, depending on who wins, of course. But those are the 3 drivers in contention for the championship, and there are 17 other drivers who'll be on track, possibly as an obstacle for Lando Norris, some of them at least. What are their thoughts going into this weekend? Because even though there's other battles going on further down the field, they'll be very aware of the situation with who could win the World Drivers' Championship.
I think everyone here on the paddock is only thinking about one thing, and that is that championship title fight. it's very unique in F1 to only have a title fight still on in the last race. That's not something that happens that often. 2021 was the last time we had that. And even with 3 drivers, we have to go 15 years back in 2010 before when we had that last. So I think it's a unique situation in F1. And when you speak to drivers here, they realize it as well. I think we had a chat with Oliver Behrman and 2 Alpine guys, and they all said some similar things in terms of like, they are motorsport fans overall. They love F1. And this is something that, like I said, is unique to F1. And they like to see it as well. And they were saying like, yeah, I'm going to have maybe a little bit more my eye on the screens alongside the track during this race on Sunday when I have the time to spare, because I want to see how this evolves. So I think a lot of the drivers here on the paddock would maybe rather sit back and just watch those 3 fight it out themselves. But yeah, that's not an option. And if that would be the case, we already know the outcome. So that wouldn't be that exciting. So that's very interesting. And also, of course, a lot of drivers here on the paddock got the question in terms of like who they think gonna win. A lot say Lando, especially in the press conference. We had George Russell, Isack Hadjar, and Leclerc. All 3 said Lando Norris, which makes the most sense, of course. Carlos Sainz said the same. He said this is a really Abu Dhabi is a real track for Lando Norris. He's always done good. Carlos Sainz could know because he drove some season alongside Lando Norris at McLaren, of course. So some people indicating Lando Norris could win here. Others would really like Max to win the title, like Gabriel Bortoleto, Nico Hülkenberg, guys, Liam Lawson as well, hoping that Red Bull could finish this turnaround of which he, of course, was at the start of this season when things were not looking so great for Red Bull Racing. So I think overall, yeah, a lot of division. The name Oscar Piastri, though, there are not many who are calling him the favorite to be champion. But probably if we go back to 2010, not a lot will have said Sebastian Vettel will win the title at that point in time.
Yeah, there's still hope for Piastri, but it is very slender. But it's a very different track as well, isn't it, Yas Marina now? There's the potential to overtake, and no Vitaly Petrov on the circuit. But let's go into the biggest news of the week outside, news we can actually tangibly talk about. And one of the drivers that won't be making the step into 2026, Yuki Tsunoda, he's out of Red Bull, out of Racing Bulls, because Isack Hadjar is going to be making the step up to Red Bull Racing. We've also got Arvid Lindblad making the step up from Formula 2. But Tim, I know you've had time to speak with this rookie driver who's had such a stellar season about his graduation into the big boy team at Red Bull. What did Isack say?
Yeah, just a funny coincidence. We can't bring it into view because otherwise this video will be brought down by FOM. But I just saw Max walking past with his manager Raymond, walking towards Isack Hadjar, who was there standing with Dino Beganovic and 2 other members of that team. And just a friendly handshake between the 2 of them. No, I spoke to Isack Hadjar early on the day. It was a select media group where we were invited to have a proper chat with Isack, who already was down at the press conference, of course. And then we had a proper sit down with him to talk about, everything that will be going on for next season, how he heard everything, what his approach will be. And I think especially that latter part, of which the story is now live on gpblog.com as well, if you want to read the full story. But I think his approach is interesting. He's going to go into the season 2026 already accepting he will be slower than Max Verstappen. He thinks that is the way to go. He thinks that his predecessors at Red Bull Racing, while maybe saying sometimes that they would accept that they would be slower, he said everyone thinks going in, he's human, I can beat him. And he thinks that has been the mistake of his predecessors. He says, if I go in, accept that I'm slower, it is Max Verstappen after all, maybe that eases like the pressure from me to get disappointed overall. Because he said, if you come in, you think you're going to beat him and you get stumped, that's the wording he used, it's going to be a snowball effect through the rest of the season, and your confidence is going to be very low at a very early point in the season. So I think a very interesting approach. You could say maybe you're already beaten if you go into a season like that. On the other hand, he thinks this is the way to go. He thinks that if he downplays his own expectations, which are pretty high, he's very self-critical. He even if he has a very strong result, he wants even more. So I think he's very critical himself already. He wants the most out of this, try to get the most out of the Red Bull seat. He's very proud of his Red Bull seat. But yeah, a very different approach from what we've seen so far with other Red Bull drivers that stepped in alongside Max.
We obviously wish Isack very well. All these rookie drivers have been standouts, really. I don't think there's anybody who's disappointed going into 2025. And the other driver of the rookie group, the one that also got that podium finish, of course, is Andrea Kimi Antonelli, Toto Wolff's baby, who's made this step up into Formula One and has done so well. But obviously, after last weekend, suffered a lot of online abuse because of some of the broadcast radio suggesting that he was interfering with the championship, which of course was not true. What can you tell us about the reaction from inside the paddock, especially at Red Bull Racing, with regards to their involvement in what led to this torrid week for Kimi?
A lot of support from all of the drivers here at the track, of course. George Russell spoke about it. But also Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen was quite open. He said afterwards he reached out very quickly to Toto Wolff, to Kimi Antonelli themselves, got in contact with the two of them to explain what his view was, made his apologies as a team as well from Red Bull, that it was not their intention. Same for Russell, Leclerc. A lot of the people reach out to him and try to help in that way, to ease the amazing amount of hate that was online to him. And I think one of the lines from Max was very good, if you ask me. He said, of course, Helmut Marko GP made mistakes by, saying in the heat of the moment that it was Antonelli waving by Lando Norris. It was a mistake. They owned up to their mistake. They said something in the heat of the moment, apologized afterwards. And I think that is something that is normal, that's possible. But it's no excuse for all the people online on their keyboards raging and sending all the stuff out there to Kimi Antonelli again, 90-year-old kid still. And I've seen some of the posts. Can't go into detail in all of them, but it's been insane what you see in terms of the comments that are being sent to him. Again, a 90-year-old kid. And whatever you think happened there, whatever your theories are, I don't think that's a way of, behaving towards whatever driver you support or don't support at all in F1.
There is a person who, just like your siblings, friends, family, etc., is holding the phone or is behind the keyboard, and even though he's a celebrity, is still, like you say, a 19-year-old kid. And if you went out and did this to a 19-year-old kid, you've got some serious issues. So please don't do that, everybody. Anyway, on a better note to end the episode, Tim, you are the man on the ground for GP Blog and F1 Paddock Update in Abu Dhabi. So if you can stay sober and away from all the celebratory beers after whichever team that you go behind in the garage, I know you're at Red Bull at the moment, could be McLaren, could be Red Bull, on Sunday night we'll be catching up with you to go through everything after we find out who the 2025 World Champion will be. Make sure you like, comment and subscribe to keep up to date with everything we've been going through and to see what Tim says exclusively here on this YouTube channel or Spotify if you're watching over there. Thank you for everything you brought to us, Tim, and thank you everybody else for watching.